I'm always adding new spins and new foods into my diet to get different results and try different things. I'm a constant guinea pig. That's why you watch this channel. I do some of the legwork for you and test things out, tell you what works and what doesn't. So here's what I'm eating to get shredded this summer. And when I say get shredded, I mean like get a little bit leaner. And I've done some videos on other things that I'm doing, but I want to talk more about my diet. Now, first off, the baseline diet is always kind of the same. The baseline diet is lots of meat, a fair bit of fruit, good healthy fats. It's really pretty basic with quite frequent fasting thrown into the mix, training in a fasted state, focusing on being in a deficit as much as I can throughout training, focusing on G-Flux where I eat a lot but move a lot. I try to eat about 3,500 calories a day and move a commensurate amount so my deficit is induced more by my activity. But anyway, we're not talking about that. We're talking about the specific foods. Okay, so the number one thing that I'm gonna change in terms of my food as I try to get shredded is I change my ratio of egg yolks to egg whites. Plain and simple. Like normally, if I'm just in normal maintenance mode, I keep my egg yolk quantity pretty high, like 4, 5, sometimes 6 eggs, and then maybe a couple extra whites in there through a carton just to like get a little more, because I'm less focused on being crazy lean and just focused on like getting the health benefit there, like getting those lipids, getting that choline from the yolk, getting the lutein zeaxanthin that I want, right? But when the time comes to get lean, make no mistake, I trim the fats down. So I focus much more of a ratio of like 1 to 2 whole eggs and maybe a cup or so of egg whites. So I'm definitely making a shift there. Not gonna spend a ton of time talking about that one. Let's move on. Number 2, I do start adding in more in the way of honey as my source of carbohydrate. And that sounds really wild, but there's so much evidence supporting honey being quite good for the appetite, being good for PYY, being good for even potentially for some GLP-1 response. Now, if you are dealing with insulin resistance, yes, I agree. You probably shouldn't load a bunch of honey. But I do recommend going with something like maybe acacia honey, which is going to be a lower glycemic index, okay? But I would highly recommend, if you can swing it, go for more of a Manuka type honey that has a high MGO content, because the evidence is really, really, really strong on Manuka honey when it comes down to how the antioxidant profile impacts our ability to utilize the carbs in insulin resistance. So even though it's a higher glycemic honey, the antioxidant profile of it actually helps us metabolize sugar better long term, or at least it looks that way from the literature. So I use a little more honey because I feel like it makes me not want to go splurge on other things. I get the sweetness and I get an antioxidant effect, and it just something that feels like a treat to me. And I only do a couple tablespoons. I know guys like Paul Saladino says guzzle the stuff, and trust me, there will be times when I feel depleted or super run down from crazy long workouts or something. I will have a lot more honey, but usually it's just like a simple staple for me. But I've made more of a shift towards more like Manuka style honeys. The next one is cacao nibs have become a big one for me. And the reason is because I've seen some recent evidence on cacao nibs in satiety. And it would make sense because it's like a pure fiber, really. Okay, but also the antioxidant profile with pretty much no sugar. It seems to be something that really, really adds some flavor when I add it to yogurts, when I add it to any kind of thing that needs a little crunch. And call me crazy, but I feel like I get a mental lift from it. So I don't have any crazy scientific literature to dump on you when it comes down to cacao nibs, other than the fact that they're very anti-inflammatory just from a couple of the different antioxidants that are in cocoa and cacao. But the bottom line is they keep me really full, and they're very low calorie. A couple tablespoons of these things and I feel like I'm getting my fix. The next one is one that I'm now considering a superfood. I've talked about this food for probably 7 or 8 years, okay? But when I am cutting, it is tremendously powerful, and there's evidence to back this up, and we can show the study on the screen. I don't remember exactly what it is, but I've talked about it in other videos. Don't remember where it was published. It was a pretty decent sized study. They took green bananas, okay? And in this particular case in the study, they found that green banana flour shifted the gut microbiome from firmicutes, which is very much so associated with high fat and obesity, like very much so, clearly associated. And it shifted that to high firmicutes, low Bacteroidetes, to the opposite. High Bacteroidetes, low firmicutes in like almost no time. Meaning it is one of the most radically powerful shifters for the microbiome. And when we look at the microbiome, it plays a critical role in our body composition. But let's put all that aside. Green banana flour increases our gut incretins, and it increases our levels of just satiety dramatically. I have talked about eating green bananas and just like eating a half of one for so long, and I'm glad that now the research is coming out and people are talking more about it. But you can use green banana flour. You can use like 2 tablespoons of green banana flour. Changes your gut composition, and I will tell you, you will have practically no appetite. The stuff practically has no taste, but you will have like no appetite because the satiety effect of the resistant starch is so powerful. So for me, I'm a foodie. I like food, so anything that I can do to just help satiate myself. Number 5, using filtered milk, but now I'm not using Fairlife anymore because I started understanding the research behind like the casein proteins with Fairlife and some of the other just regular milks that are out there using A1 type protein. Now that I've seen that science, I can't unsee it. So you might have seen some of my videos talking about that. A1 type milk has a casein protein in it known as BCM7. And if you look at the literature, it becomes pretty evident that it's pretty darn inflammatory. And there's reasons why milk in Europe is so different. Like we switched from an A2 variety of cattle to an A1 variety of cattle because it produces more milk. Okay. But the hard part is most dairy farms can't switch over to using A2 because they'd have to change the entire infrastructure. I don't think that this is anything nefarious. I think it started as a simple, hey, these produce more milk, and now we're realizing they have a beta-casomorphin in them that triggers a response within us. And it makes it so that literally has an opioid effect within our gut. This is quite sketchy, and I'm not saying that like all dairy is bad. Please don't get me wrong. I consume dairy. I consume yogurt that still has you know what I mean? You're not going to avoid it. But when I'm drinking straight up milk, I was drinking Fairlife because I liked it and it tasted good. But there's now a company that you might have seen at Target. It's called Pioneer Pastures. I've gotten involved with them a little bit. I've become stepped into their advisory board because I'm really interested in what they're doing. They have like exclusive farms that are A2 cattle, soup to nuts, the whole operation utilizing this original breed of cow, like that ancestrally we started using, right? Before we switched to an A1 genetically kind of changed variety. So A2 milk is wild, but they also filter it so it's significantly higher protein, 75% less sugar. So you're looking at way higher, like double the protein content, way less sugar than regular milk because it's been filtered. Okay, this is hugely important. Now they also have these protein shakes, and these are becoming a staple for me because I didn't really touch the Fairlife protein shakes because they had like all these other stuff in them. They had sucralose in it. I just didn't want that. It had emulsifiers. It had thickeners. Pioneer Pastures did the same thing using A2 highly filtered milk, high protein, low sugar, A2 variety milk, and also made it so that they made protein shakes out of it, but in this case with no weird flavorings, no artificial sweeteners. They're not using any carrageenan. These things are amazing for high protein, low fat, and pretty much a real whole food. So I also linked out to them down below, but the best thing you do, get them at Target. Help support them in Target, because this is how we vote with our dollars and make serious change. And I know that I push products sometimes. I know, I'm in business, I run a channel, but I am telling you with all of my heart and soul that this is the kind of thing that we need to do. We need to start changing how even the farmers look at dairy and how the lobbyists look at dairy, right? So it's like, oh, wait a minute, maybe we could shift to a better quality dairy and it doesn't actually cost that much more money, and maybe we'd have better outcomes overall, and people would feel better and not have the digestive discomfort, because it perhaps isn't the lactose. Anyway, point is, it's a big part of my fat loss diet. And I have always used dairy as part of my fat loss diet because it satiates me and I love the way it feels. I feel like it's a treat. Speaking of dairy, when it comes to yogurt, for fun, I made a shift away from Greek yogurt over to Icelandic Skyr. There was no real reason other than like one time, like the grocery store didn't have what I wanted and I went with Icelandic Skyr. And I had had it before, but I was like, wait a minute, I really like the tanginess to this. And then I looked at the protein content. I'm like, oh, you know what? This is actually like 5-10% more protein than Greek yogurt. And it's thicker. It almost feels like a cheese, right? Like a thick cheese, really thick. I'm like, I could dig this. And then I realized after the fact that I was getting pretty satiated from it. I felt really good. I felt like I was full. So then I started adding my cacao nibs to it. And then it turned into this whole thing where then I would occasionally put like a little bit of like whipped cream or something on it, make it a treat, and then, you know, all kinds of different things, right? You get fun with it. But Icelandic Skyr is now a major fat loss staple for me. And I haven't abandoned Greek yogurt, I still love it. But Icelandic Skyr is like filtered and strained even more. So you can have like a 0% fat Skyr and it will taste like a 2% fat Greek yogurt. Number 7 is I started making hash browns. Like, this sounds funny, but Trader Joe's has pure, just regular shredded potatoes. Just nothing else, they're just shredded potatoes. And I don't like starches a whole lot. Like, I don't do a lot of rice, I don't do a lot of grains. Like, I don't do bread unless it's occasionally like some gluten-free fermented sourdough, or if I'm in Europe for any extended period of time, I'll do regular sourdough. But for this, it's how I get my starches in, which is not too often. But what I'll do is I will cook them with no added oils. I'm not a big fan of adding fats and carbs together. So I'll literally just put a little water in the pan, and potatoes have enough like moisture that they kind of get crispy and cook themselves. So then what I'll do is I'll cook those, I'll put some of my egg whites on top, or one of the whole eggs I'll poach, and I'll make like a Benedict. My wife taught me about this. She loves it. So making hash browns with like one poached egg on top, and just letting it soak, almost like you're making an eggs Benedict, but without the English muffin, you're just doing it over potatoes. So that has become a staple for me, because when I do need some starches, which isn't always, I don't need them, but occasionally I want to have them to get my carb content up a little bit for whatever reason, I find that this is a way for me to control it without getting like hash browns from McDonald's or something like that. Number 8, blueberries are back in the mix for me, super strong, because of newer evidence that's now showing they don't just have antioxidant effects with the anthocyanins, they increase our endogenous antioxidants, superoxide dismutase and catalase. So yes, I love them. Yes, they're super low glycemic. Yes, they're high fiber. Yes, they're delicious. But yes, they also support our own antioxidant production in our body. So heck yes to the blueberries. These are one of my go-to fruits. That, golden kiwis are another go-to fruit for me. Raspberries are another go-to fruit. And everyone that knows me knows that I love watermelon, but I don't go crazy on it. Number 9, I don't need to really spend a lot of time on this. I'm always a lean beef guy. I go for 96% lean beef. So if you haven't tuned into my videos before and you don't know that, now you do. 96% lean beef. I try to go leaner cuts of meat when I'm cutting so that I can control my fat intake and control my calories in other ways, plain and simple. But the next thing that I've added in, I've done a lot more mollusks lately. The reason that I've added more mollusks in is because they have something that is known as DPP4 inhibitors in them. So if we look at the world of Ozempic, like Ozempic works because it's a GLP-1 receptor agonist, makes us satiated, modulates blood glucose. But when we eat something and we get a GLP-1 response, it's usually neutralized in like 1 to 2 minutes by DPP4. It's an enzyme that breaks it down. And that's a normal process. It's not a bad thing, it's just doing its job. But mollusks, and also things like sacha inchi seeds, which I'm a huge fan of too, I eat those too, I just didn't make this particular list. Huge fat loss food for me too, sacha inchi seeds. But mollusks, so mussels, I'll eat clams, I'll eat oysters, and I don't care, sometimes they're smoked oysters. These I have noticed, okay, why do they make me so satiated? And people have said that before, they fill you up. It's because they inhibit DPP4 and it makes GLP-1 last longer. So when you eat protein and fat or fiber and you inhibit DPP4, the circulating GLP-1 can circulate for a longer period of time, giving you a chance to actually feel satiated. So you're saying all these things I'm talking about have to do with satiation more than anything. They don't magically burn fat. And the last thing, when we're speaking of satiation, one I've talked about before, number 11, glucomannan fiber, Shiratake noodles. I have now learned how to make like a really good chow mein from it. I will go and I will get I use a peanut-free one because I have an issue with peanuts. Not super allergic, but I just feel weird. And I get like a Thai sauce, a Thai food sauce that they have at Sprouts. And it's like it's made with almonds instead of peanuts. It's like my treat. I'll do that with a little bit of tamari or maybe a little bit of coconut aminos. And I put that over Shiratake noodles, which are just pure glucomannan fiber, have like 5 calories in a bundle of them. Heat that up and I make like a chow mein kind of pad thai thing. The whole thing is like 50 calories. And I tell you, I am so dang full. So this is something that I have along with maybe some shrimp or some chicken. And that becomes a 200, 300 calorie meal that feels and looks like a 1,000 calorie meal. So anyhow, these are just a few little things that I'm doing. I did another video that's kind of gonna explain like more other things I'm adding in, peptide supplements. This is mainly focused on the food. I'll see you tomorrow.